Olivia Carter pressed her forehead against the cold window of the taxi, watching the city lights blur into streams of gold and white. Her chest ached with a pain so sharp it felt physical. 20 minutes ago, she had walked into her apartment to surprise her boyfriend Ryan with his favorite takeout, only to find him tangled in their bed sheets with her younger sister Nicole. The driver glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "Rough night, miss?" Olivia managed a weak smile. "You could say that." She had not cried yet. The shock had frozen her emotions into a solid block of ice somewhere behind her ribs. Ryan had stammered excuses while Nicole had the nerve to look annoyed at being interrupted. Olivia had simply turned around and walked out, leaving the food on the kitchen counter and her keys on the table. The taxi dropped her off in the downtown district, where sleek buildings touched the clouded night sky. Olivia found herself standing in front of the Sapphire Lounge, an upscale bar she had passed 100 times but never entered. Tonight seemed like the perfect time to change that. Inside, soft piano music floated through the air. The lighting was dim and intimate, with leather booths and a long marble bar that gleamed under hanging pendant lights. Olivia slid onto a bar stool and ordered a whiskey sour without thinking. She never drank whiskey, but tonight called for something stronger than her usual white wine. The first sip burned beautifully down her throat. The second made her shoulders relax just slightly. By the third, she was staring into the amber liquid and wondering how she had missed the signs. Ryan had been distant for weeks. Nicole had been visiting more often. How long had this been happening right under her nose? "Mind if I sit here?" Olivia turned to find a man gesturing to the empty stool beside her. He was tall with dark brown hair that fell perfectly across his forehead, warm hazel eyes, and a strong jawline. He wore a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing tanned forearms. Everything about him screamed confidence and success. "Be my guest," Olivia replied, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "Julian," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Olivia," she said, shaking it. His grip was firm and warm, and she felt an unexpected jolt of awareness travel up her arm. "So, Olivia," Julian said, signaling the bartender for a drink. "What brings someone like you to a place like this on a Friday night?" That sounded like a terrible pickup line. "Let me try again. You look like you have had the kind of day that requires expensive alcohol." Despite everything, Olivia laughed. It was the first genuine emotion she had felt since walking in on Ryan and Nicole. "You have no idea." "Try me," Julian said, his hazel eyes kind. "I am a good listener. And we are complete strangers, so you never have to see me again if you do not want to." Maybe it was the whiskey, or maybe it was the understanding in his eyes, but Olivia found herself talking. She told him about Ryan and Nicole, about the 2 years she had invested in a relationship that turned out to be built on lies. She talked about how her own sister had betrayed her, about the apartment she would now have to leave, about feeling stupid for not seeing it coming. Julian listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or making a sympathetic sound. When she finally finished, he signaled for another round of drinks. "Here is what I know," Julian said, turning to face her fully. "Anyone who cheats is showing you exactly who they are. It has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with their character. And family members who betray you like that? They were never really on your team to begin with." "You sound like you speak from experience," Olivia observed. Julian smiled, but it did not quite reach his eyes. "My ex-fiancée decided my business partner was more interesting than me. Found out when I came back early from a conference. So yes, I understand betrayal." They talked for hours after that. Julian was funny and insightful, with stories about traveling through Southeast Asia and opinions about everything from architecture to the best coffee in the city. He made her laugh until her sides hurt, made her forget about Ryan and Nicole completely. The chemistry between them was undeniable, crackling in the air like electricity before a storm. "I should go," Olivia said eventually, though she made no move to leave. Probably, Julian agreed, but he leaned closer instead of pulling away. His hand found hers on the bar, fingers threading through hers naturally. "This is crazy," Olivia whispered. "Completely insane," Julian murmured, his eyes locked on hers. "Do you want to do something crazy with me?" Olivia knew she should say no. She should go home, process her feelings, be responsible. But Ryan had chosen her sister. Her family had betrayed her. And sitting beside her was this incredible man who made her feel alive and desired and brave. "Yes," she breathed. Julian paid their tab and they walked out into the cool night air. His hand found hers again, warm and solid. 2 blocks away stood the Sterling Hotel, a boutique place with elegant gold lettering and a lobby that smelled of jasmine and luxury. In the elevator, they stood close but did not touch, letting anticipation build with each ascending floor. When the doors opened on the 15th floor, Julian led her down a quiet hallway to a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering cityscape. The door closed behind them, and suddenly they were kissing with an urgency that surprised them both. Olivia's hands tangled in Julian's hair while his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her close. Every touch felt electric, every kiss deeper than the last. "Are you sure about this?" Julian asked, pulling back to search her face with genuine concern. "I have never been more sure of anything," Olivia answered truthfully. What followed was the most passionate night of Olivia's life. Julian was attentive and gentle, making her feel cherished in ways Ryan never had. They laughed at awkward moments and gasped at perfect ones, exploring each other with curiosity and care. When they finally collapsed together as dawn light crept through the windows, Olivia felt thoroughly satisfied and strangely at peace. She woke to sunlight streaming across the bed. Julian was asleep beside her, one arm draped across her waist, his face peaceful and younger in rest. Olivia felt a flutter of something tender in her chest that scared her. This was supposed to be one beautiful night, nothing more. Carefully, she extracted herself from his embrace and gathered her scattered clothes. As she dressed quietly, she spotted her red lace panties near the nightstand. On impulse, she picked them up and placed them on the pillow beside Julian's head with a small smile. Then Olivia Carter slipped out of the hotel room and back into reality, certain she would never see the mysterious Julian again. She had absolutely no idea how wrong she was. Monday morning arrived far too quickly. Olivia had spent the entire weekend moving her belongings out of the apartment she had shared with Ryan and into a cozy one-bedroom place across town. Ryan had sent countless text messages begging to explain. Nicole had left a voicemail saying Olivia was overreacting. She blocked them both and focused on building her new life. The only bright spot in those difficult days was the memory of Julian. She replayed their night together in quiet moments, remembering his laugh, his touch, the way he had made her feel beautiful and powerful when her world was crumbling. She had searched for him online, but without a last name, it was impossible. The city held millions of people. What were the chances of ever seeing him again? Thomson Technologies occupied the top 12 floors of the Meridian Tower downtown. Olivia had worked there for 3 years as executive secretary to the founder, George Thomson. She loved her job, loved the fast-paced environment of the tech industry, loved feeling like she was part of something innovative and important. Today, however, the office buzzed with unusual energy. George Thomson was retiring after 40 years, and the new CEO would be introduced at the mandatory 10 o'clock meeting. Everyone was curious about who would take over the company they had all worked so hard to build. "Big day," her friend and fellow secretary Monica whispered as Olivia settled at her desk with coffee. "Have you heard anything about the new boss?" "Just that he is young, successful, and supposedly brilliant," Olivia replied, booting up her computer. "George hand-picked him personally. Says he is the future of the company. Let us hope he is not one of those nightmare executives who thinks yelling equals leadership," Monica said, rolling her eyes. The morning crawled by impossibly slowly. Olivia tried to focus on organizing files and responding to emails, but her mind kept wandering to Julian. She wondered what he was doing, whether he ever thought about her, whether their night together had meant anything to him beyond a pleasant distraction. At 9:50, employees began filtering into the large conference room on the executive floor. Olivia grabbed her notepad and followed Monica inside. The room had floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city, and a massive oval table that could seat 30 people. Everyone found seats, chattering nervously about the changes ahead. Through the glass walls, Olivia could see George Thompson speaking with someone just outside the conference room. The other person had their back turned, but she could see he was tall with dark hair and broad shoulders beneath a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. Then he turned around. Time stopped completely. Julian walked into the conference room beside George Thompson, carrying a leather portfolio and radiating confidence. His hair was styled professionally, and he wore a navy tie that brought out the hazel in his eyes. He looked polished, powerful, and devastatingly handsome. He looked like someone who belonged in a corner office making million-dollar decisions. And he was walking straight toward her. "Oh no," Olivia whispered, feeling all the blood drain from her face. Her hands went cold. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought everyone must be able to hear it. "What?" Monica asked, concerned. "Are you okay? You look like you are about to faint." "That is him," Olivia managed to say through numb lips, unable to tear her eyes away from Julian as he shook hands with various executives. "What him?" "The guy from Friday night. The bar. The hotel. That guy." Monica's jaw dropped. "You slept with our new CEO?" "I did not know he was our CEO," Olivia hissed desperately. "I did not even know his last name." "Good morning, everyone," George Thompson said warmly, calling the meeting to order. The room fell silent instantly. "I cannot tell you how excited I am to introduce Thomson Technologies' new Chief Executive Officer, Julian Westbrook. Julian comes to us from Vanguard Digital in San Francisco, where he transformed their entire business model and tripled their revenue in just 3 years. He is a visionary leader, and I have complete confidence that he will take this company to heights I never imagined." Olivia could barely breathe. Julian Westbrook. Now she had a last name to go with the face she could not stop thinking about. Julian smiled professionally at the assembled employees, his eyes scanning the room. When his gaze landed on Olivia, she saw the exact moment recognition hit. His smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. Then his professional mask slid smoothly back into place. But Olivia knew. She knew he was thinking about that night. About the hotel room. About her red lace panties left on his pillow. "Thank you, George," Julian said, his voice smooth and confident as he stepped forward. "I am honored to be here and thrilled to work with such a talented team. I have spent the past 2 weeks reviewing your projects, and I am genuinely impressed by the innovation and dedication I have seen." He continued talking about his vision for the company, about expansion plans and new initiatives. His voice was measured and authoritative, the voice of someone born to lead. But every few sentences, his eyes would drift back to Olivia, just for a heartbeat, before returning to the rest of the room. "My door is always open," Julian finished. "I believe in collaboration, transparency, and supporting every member of this team. Together, we are going to do incredible things." Applause filled the room. People stood to introduce themselves, clustering around Julian with questions and congratulations. Olivia tried to slip out quietly, her mind spinning with panic and confusion. "Olivia Carter," Julian's voice cut through the chatter, stopping her at the door. His eyes were on a printed roster in his hand. "Could you stay for a moment? I would like to discuss your role as executive secretary." Monica squeezed her arm supportively as she passed, whispering, "Good luck," before disappearing into the hallway. The conference room emptied. Suddenly Olivia was alone with Julian Westbrook, the mysterious stranger from Friday night who was now her boss. He waited until the door closed completely before speaking. "So," he said, setting down his portfolio and leaning against the conference table. "This is unexpected." "That is the understatement of the century," Olivia replied, staying near the door in case she needed to escape. "You are my boss." "And you left your underwear on my pillow," Julian added, that familiar playful smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Red lace, if I recall correctly. Very memorable." Olivia felt her face burn hot. "I was making a spontaneous gesture. I had no idea I would ever see you again, let alone work for you." "For the record," Julian said, his expression turning serious, "I did not know you worked here either. When George offered me the position, he gave me financial reports and project summaries, not staff rosters with photos. This morning was as much a shock for me as it was for you." "What do we do?" Olivia asked quietly, hugging her notepad to her chest like a shield. "There are rules about this kind of thing. Workplace policies. Harassment laws." Julian ran a hand through his hair, musing it slightly in a gesture she recognized from their night together. "There are rules about relationships between supervisors and subordinates, yes. But technically, we do not have a relationship. We had one night before I became your boss. Nothing inappropriate has happened in the workplace." "Yet," Olivia said. "Nothing inappropriate has happened yet. But everyone saw you single me out just now. People are going to talk." "Let them talk," Julian said firmly. "You are the executive secretary, which means we will be working closely together regardless. People can think whatever they want. We know the truth." "Which is what exactly?" Olivia challenged. "That we had a one-night stand that meant nothing?" Something flickered across Julian's face. "Hurt, maybe, or disappointment. Did it mean nothing to you?" Olivia hesitated. The truth was that Friday night had meant everything. Julian had made her feel alive and desired and brave. He had listened to her pain and made her laugh through it. Their connection had been real and electric and unlike anything she had experienced before. But admitting that now, in this conference room with him as her boss, felt dangerous. "It meant something," she admitted quietly. "But it does not matter now. You are the CEO. I am your secretary. We have to be professional." Julian studied her for a long moment, his hazel eyes unreadable. "You are right. Professional boundaries. Starting now." He extended his hand formally. "It is nice to meet you, Miss Carter. I look forward to working with you." Olivia shook his hand, trying to ignore the familiar warmth of his touch. "Likewise, Mr. Westbrook." As she turned to leave, Julian spoke once more. "Olivia?" She paused at the door. "For what it is worth, I do not regret Friday night. Not for a second." "Neither do I," Olivia whispered, before walking out and closing the door behind her. She made it back to her desk before her hands started shaking. This was going to be so much harder than she thought. 3 weeks passed in a blur of professional tension and unspoken desire. Olivia threw herself into her work with renewed focus, determined to prove she had earned her position through skill rather than any personal connection to Julian. She arrived early, stayed late, and handled every task with flawless precision. Julian, for his part, was the model of professional behavior. He called her Miss Carter in meetings, kept their interactions strictly business, and never once mentioned their night together. But Olivia caught him watching her sometimes when he thought she was not looking, his gaze intense and hungry before he would quickly glance away. The entire office had noticed the new CEO's demanding schedule. Julian worked 12-hour days, revolutionizing outdated systems and pushing everyone to think bigger. He was brilliant and driven, exactly the leader Thomson Technologies needed. But the late nights were taking their toll on everyone, especially Olivia, who coordinated his entire calendar. Miss Carter, Julian's voice came through the intercom on her desk. Could you come to my office, please? We need to discuss the Parker Tech merger proposal. It was 8:30 on a Thursday evening. The office had emptied hours ago, leaving just the two of them on the executive floor. Olivia gathered her notepad and knocked on Julian's door before entering. His office was massive, with sleek modern furniture and those same floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Julian stood by the windows, his suit jacket discarded and his shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked tired but handsome in the golden light of the desk lamp. You wanted to discuss Parker Tech? Olivia asked, keeping her voice professional. Julian turned from the window, and she saw something conflicted in his expression. Actually, that was an excuse. I wanted to talk to you. Really talk, not this careful dance we have been doing for 3 weeks. Mr. Westbrook, we agreed to maintain professional boundaries, Olivia reminded him, though her heart had started racing. Julian, he corrected. When it is just us, please call me Julian. And yes, we agreed to professional boundaries. But pretending that night never happened is driving me insane, Olivia. He crossed the room toward her, stopping a respectful distance away. Every day you walk past my desk and I remember how you felt in my arms. Every time you hand me a report, I think about your laugh at that bar. Every single meeting, I have to force myself not to stare at you. This is not appropriate, Olivia whispered, but she did not move away. I know, Julian said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Believe me, I know. I have never been in this situation before. I have never wanted someone I should not want. But here we are. Here we are, Olivia echoed. So what do we do about it? I have been thinking about that, Julian admitted. There are options. You could transfer to a different department, work under a different supervisor. That would eliminate the conflict of interest. Olivia felt something cold settle in her stomach. You want me to leave? No, Julian said quickly, emphatically. That is the last thing I want. But I am trying to do the right thing here. I am trying to give you options that do not put your career at risk. What about what I want? Olivia asked, surprised by her own boldness. Maybe I do not want to transfer. Maybe I like working as your secretary. Maybe I am good at it. You are exceptional at it, Julian said. You have made my transition here seamless. The entire executive team has commented on your efficiency and insight. Losing you would be a significant blow to my effectiveness as CEO. Then we have a problem, Olivia said. Because the professional thing would be for me to transfer. But neither of us wants that. They stood in the quiet office, the city glittering below them, trapped in an impossible situation. The attraction between them was undeniable, crackling in the air like a live wire. But the professional consequences of acting on it could be devastating for both their careers. Tell me about the marketing strategy you proposed for the Chin account, Julian said suddenly, changing the subject. Monica mentioned you had ideas that went beyond what the team presented. Olivia blinked at the abrupt shift. That is what you want to talk about? Marketing strategies? Humor me, Julian said, moving to sit on the edge of his desk. I want to hear your thoughts. Not as my secretary, but as someone with a sharp mind for this business. Slowly, Olivia began explaining her vision for repositioning their approach to Chin Industries. She had noticed gaps in their current strategy, opportunities being missed. As she talked, Julian listened intently, occasionally asking insightful questions that pushed her thinking further. Before she realized it, an hour had passed. They had moved to the whiteboard, sketching out campaigns and target demographics. Julian had grabbed Chinese takeout from the break room fridge that someone had left behind, and they ate straight from the containers while debating branding approaches. This is brilliant, Julian said, studying the whiteboard covered in her notes. This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. Why did you not present this to the marketing team? Because I am a secretary, Olivia said simply. They do not ask for my input on strategy. That changes now, Julian declared. I am moving you to a hybrid role. You will still coordinate my schedule and handle executive communications, but I also want you in strategy meetings. Your insights are too valuable to waste. Olivia felt a warm glow of pride. You mean that? I never say things I do not mean, Julian replied. You are talented, Olivia. You deserve opportunities to show it. Their eyes met across the office, and suddenly the professional pretense crumbled. The tension that had been building for 3 weeks reached a breaking point. We should not do this, Olivia whispered, but she did not look away. Probably not, Julian agreed, moving closer. Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me this is a bad idea and we will go back to being perfectly professional. It is a bad idea, Olivia said. But she did not tell him to stop. Julian cupped her face gently, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she leaned into his touch instead, he kissed her with all the pent-up longing of 3 impossible weeks. Olivia melted against him, her hands fisting in his shirt as she kissed him back with equal hunger. They broke apart eventually, both breathing hard. Julian rested his forehead against hers. We cannot keep doing this, he said. Not like this. Not sneaking around, pretending we do not feel what we feel. Then what do we do? Olivia asked. We do it right, Julian decided. I will talk to HR tomorrow about proper protocols for workplace relationships. We will document everything, make sure there is no appearance of favoritism or impropriety. If we are going to do this, we do it transparently and ethically. You would do that? Risk the gossip and judgment? For you? Julian said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Yes. That night at the bar, you were not just a distraction from my pain, Olivia. You were the first person in years who made me feel truly connected to another human being. I am not letting that go without a fight. Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. I was so afraid that night meant nothing to you. It meant everything, Julian said firmly. And I intend to prove that to you, properly this time. Starting with an actual date where I pick you up at your door and take you somewhere nice. Not a hotel? Olivia teased. Not until at least the 3rd date, Julian promised with a grin. I am going to court you properly, Olivia Carter. The way I should have from the beginning. They sealed the promise with another kiss, softer this time, full of hope rather than desperation. Below them, the city sparkled with infinite possibility. They still had challenges ahead, conversations with HR to navigate, and workplace gossip to weather. But standing in that office with Julian's arms around her, Olivia felt certain of one thing: sometimes the craziest decisions lead to the most beautiful destinations. Sometimes betrayal opens the door to something far better than what you lost. And sometimes, the mysterious stranger at a bar turns out to be exactly the person you were meant to find. 3 months later, Olivia stood in that same office wearing a stunning emerald dress. The company holiday party buzzed with music and laughter downstairs, but Julian had pulled her away for a private moment. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small wrapped box from his desk drawer. Julian, we agreed no expensive gifts, Olivia protested. Just open it, he urged. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small red stone pendant. Olivia laughed, recognizing the color immediately. Is this supposed to represent what I think it represents? She asked. Consider it a reminder, Julian said, fastening it around her neck. A reminder that sometimes the craziest moments lead to the greatest love stories. Olivia turned in his arms and kissed him deeply. You are ridiculous. And you are incredible, Julian countered. Happy 3 months, Olivia. Happy 3 months, she whispered back. They returned to the party hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next together. Because they had learned that true love was not about perfect circumstances or proper timing. It was about finding someone who made you brave enough to take the leap, even when the landing was uncertain. And Olivia Carter had never been more certain of anything in her life. The end.